And now Craig is going to share for us.
Yes, thank you. My name's Craig. I'm an addict. Not worked out what I'm going to say. But I've done some preparation. I've done some praying. I've tried to clear myself, centre myself. Ask God, for some help, some direction. Guide me in what I'm going to say. Let him demonstrate through me what he can do. If it's down to me, if I prepared what I was going to say now, I wouldn't be much use. I really wouldn't, because it'd all be about, me showing off, me trying to, gain your admiration, but instead I've got a job to do, the same job that was done to me when I first started coming to meetings. I turned up to meetings, I was in a unique state. I'd never really been in that state, completely helpless, I'd come to a horrible realisation, and I'd realised I had this, it seemed like a drug problem, I just couldn't stop doing drugs. And when I did them, I tried to do as much as possible for as long as possible. And I couldn't seem to stop doing that. I realised this has been going on for a couple of decades now. All my ambitions, this bright future, I really believed I was destined for greatness. I was going to be, up there with Freud and, Einstein, Jesus and that. I mean, they really would have been sort of like, a couple of steps down from me. But, I was going to be up there, the greatest human being there'd ever been, ever was going to be. I was deluded as well. Didn't know that though. Yeah, well, none of that was going to happen, and it all seemed to come down to this one thing. I couldn't stop using drugs the way I was using drugs. It got so bad, my drug using, that I'd actually tried to stop using my willpower on a number of occasions. I thought that's all I'd need, and it failed me. And that was crushing in itself, because I believed I was going to be the solution to my problems. I always believed that, I just couldn't be bothered to put the effort in yet. It was normally, the case, but, I'd actually, I thought, just watch this space, when I sort my life out, you're going to be impressed, and I tried, I tried that first step of sorting my life out, which was to stop doing drugs, and I failed. And it baffled me in a way, because it involved not doing something. I was really good at not doing things, I spent a lot of time not doing things. I spent a lot of effort not doing things. I was absolutely exhausted from not doing things, And there was something I didn't have to do. I didn't have to, lie, and, hide what I was doing and when I was doing it, I didn't have to hide from the phone when it was ringing, when the doorbell went. I didn't have to all the lights off, duck behind the sofa or something, I didn't have to do any of that anymore, and yet I couldn't do it. I would go out my way to find more drugs and do them again, even though I knew it was tearing my life apart, and I hadn't gone to the depths that some people have gone to. Some people have had some horrendous consequences, that sometimes have gone on for decades. I was a bit of a lightweight, an easy pushover, a little bit of pain, and I'm like, oh, it's too much, I can't do it anymore. But yeah, I realised that there was nothing I could do, and that was crushing, because I didn't want to rely on other people, sort my life out, that's me, I'm going to do that. I want all the praise, I want all the admiration, I want all the accolades, I want the idolisation. It's like, wow, he's done well, look at him, and everyone sort of says good things about me, and I feel all nice and fluffy, you know, and long may that continue. That wasn't going to happen, you know. I needed help. And it was a unique kind of help, you know. I quite often speak about it, you know, because, you know, there's help and there's help. You know, help me do the washing up, or, you know, help me go get some drugs by giving me a lift, or, you know, that kind of help is one kind of help. You know, help me get what I want. You know, I didn't have much trouble with that help. But this was help that I needed. You know, and the help that I needed, you know, is the kind of help that, you know, normally when it's offered, right, no, I can't hear, don't, I'm not, no. You know, because the help that I need quite often involves hearing the truth. And the truth is not always something I like the sound of, you know, especially when it involves my failings, you know, my shortcomings. You know, if you tell me the truth about how great I did, yeah, that's all right. But but this particular help, you know, and I wasn't doing that. You know, I was prepared to get some help. You know, that was something unique. You know, normally when I heard some help, you know, some good guidance, I start showing off, you know. I go, I know, you know, let me stop you right there before you finish. Let me finish your sentence for you and impress you that I already know what you're going to say, you know. And therefore, you know, we've got out of that horrible uncomfortableness where you're telling me the truth about myself, you know, and I've deflected it and I'm feeling smart and good again. I didn't do that. I bit a hole in my tongue instead. So I knew I needed this help, you know, and I listened to this help, you know, and that was miraculous in itself, you know. And something else happened. You know, I started doing things I didn't want to do. You know, I was guided in a way I didn't want to go, you know. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. That's over here. And I was guided over there. And it made sense to go over there, you know, because this was really like, you know, this was off the, you know, the path kind of thing. This was all like bracken and overgrown and that, you know, in that way I could see that was going to be like a nice, comfortable, happy kind of life. But there's something inside of me that just goes, no, I'm going this way. And I don't know what it is, but it's just there. It just wants to take me down the wrong path, you know, even when I see that it's the wrong path. You know, but I started going that way, you know. The thing that makes that way so unappealing, even though the results are fantastic, is that it requires effort and sacrifice. And this way just involves me doing what I want when I want, you know. And I started going down that path, you know, and it's because I was scared of where I was going. You know, I knew I couldn't stop doing drugs. You know, I just couldn't stop it. I didn't have what it took, you know, and I could see my future. You know, it was bleak. I was going downhill, it was speeding up, and it was going to be miserable, you know, and, you know, a very strong possibility, you know, I was going to die before my time, you know, complete disregard for my own well-being, my own personal safety. You know, but if it wasn't that, it was going to be a slow, arduous, you know, sort of like long, drawn-out, painful, miserable kind of, you know, sliding down, sort of like demise. And I, you know, didn't want either of them really. You know, I was finally willing to change as well, to make a wholesale change. You know, I realised there needed to be a big, drastic change in my life, not just a little change. You know, it had to be like a, you know, fairly, you know, dramatic change. And I was ready for it, you know. I didn't really want to cling on to my past that much, you know. No, I embarked, you know, on this new way of life. It's been most rewarding, you know. It's required effort, I've had to make sacrifices. It's been well worthwhile, very worthwhile. Before I even started doing drugs, I was very weird. I was quite aware of it. Gary was saying, I didn't fit in. I was the beacon. When Gary was walking around going, "Oh, I'm the only black person," I'm walking around going, "I'm with the only black person," So we suffer from the same disease. I'm all right with these things today. I've changed. But I always felt out of my depth. I didn't quite measure up. I wanted to be so great and was so far from it and couldn't be asked to put any effort in to get there. It was depressing. I could not interact with other people. I was just full of fear, nervousness, anxiety. I just had, people used to ask me, "How are you?" And I'm like, and we're just bumping into each other in town, "How are you?" "Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?" "Yeah, great." Stop question, stop answer, you move on. But I'm thrown by it. It's like a curveball. I'm like, "Oh, how am I?" I'm like, these are the difficulties I have with living, situations just had me, and then I started using it, started drinking drugs, and life took off, man. That was it. I was like, I didn't really see it. It's like the missing part of the jigsaw. I'd been missing all my life. I'm like, yeah. I started having some confidence, I could go talk to girls, ended up having sex and stuff like that, it's just, I started cracking jokes, people laughed, people enjoyed my company, it was just a party, and I seemed to have an appetite for doing these things, and I'd go for as long as possible. It's like a badge of honour, and people, "Yeah, man, he's done loads, man, he's still going," and I'm like, yeah, and 15 years later, I'm like, no, I don't do that much, no, oh yeah, I barely touch it anymore, but in secret, I'm ravenous, I'm vacuuming up everything I can do, because I need to get to oblivion. Then good joyous times are gone. I don't care whether other people are there or not. In fact, it's probably best that you're not, because then I can, I can just do it all to myself, and I don't have to talk to anyone, and and I can do some weird stuff as well sometimes, that I don't want people to know about. And I'm not telling you now. Things have changed. Drugs weren't, they weren't, I see other people using, my girlfriend drinks, occasionally, but I see, people, quite often drink and use drugs to add to the occasion. It enhances the occasion, it makes the social occasion, that much better, more enjoyable. For me, they were the occasion. You were just a hindrance, The getting wasted was the main event. I bet everything on, that getting wasted, that is what had to work, and I despised having to come down and stop using. It's like, no, I know it's coming. I know I can't keep using because I don't have the funds, my body, will after so many days, will just start going, "I've had enough, Craig, you're on your own," and it'll just give up on me, but I knew I was going to have to go through some torture when I sort of stopped my binge, and what was there, when it did all stop, it says in there about the 4 horsemen, and I can never remember them, but something like terror, bewilderment, frustration and fear or something like that, I don't know. But that was it. Every time I finished the binge, I remember many times, you know, just being there. I was smoking the butts of the butts now, you know, and I'm looking out the window and it's something like 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun's about to come out and I've just used everything. I can barely move. I feel quite catatonic, you know. My eyes are kind of starting to stream. I'm not crying. It's just like, you know, I've just like really pushed the boat out yet again. And I feel so goddamn awful, and I know it's going to take a few days for this to stop, and I can't believe I've done this again. If I knew I was going to feel this shit, I wouldn't have done it. But I did know. I knew I was going to feel that shit, and I still did it. You know, that's how intolerable life is for me. You know, I need relief from being me in the world. You know, and I can't get that relief any other way. You know, the only thing that really worked for giving me relief for being me in the world was to get wasted. You know, but yeah, there was a shelf life to it. You know, I just couldn't really do it anymore. You know, and I'm so glad. You know that I snapped internally. You know. Was ready to change, ready to do things I didn't want to do to recover. You know, I'm an addict. I'm still an addict. I believe I'm always going to be an addict. I believe I always was an addict. You know, but I have recovered. You know, I don't obsess about drugs. You know, occasionally think about them. Yeah, it would be nice to do them. I love them. You know, I'd love to get wasted again. You know, I'd love to be able to just, you know, leave it there, you know, not be driven to keep getting more and more and more, keep driven to do them again and again and again at all costs. You know, that's gone. You know, the spiritual malady that Gary was, you know, talking about, you know, I was about 99% nervous when I turned up, you know. You know, most of the time now I'm probably about 10%. You know, that is beyond my wildest dreams. I believed that I was born, you know, it was part of my nature to have this nervous disposition. That is pretty much gone, you know. That is miraculous. You know, I can interact with other people in a way I've never been able to. You know, I used to have to, like, any silence would be filled with me talking, you know, talking about things that hadn't even entered my mind yet. You know, that's how nervous I was, you know. I hadn't even thought of them, you know. You know, there was nothing calm or measured in my approach. I was erratic, I was spontaneous, you know. I was a bit all over the place, you know. I'm a lot more centred, a lot more grounded, a lot more calm. I have a sense of purpose, meaning and direction in my life now. You know, I know that it's dependent upon me doing certain actions. You know, I need to be in contact with this, you know, with this power that keeps me clean. I didn't have the power to say no to drinking drugs. I could not say no. You know, if it did, it probably was an accident, you know, or didn't hear you properly or something like that, you know, and if I did say no, you know, I might have been trying to, you know, no, I'm not going to do it, but, you know, give it a few thoughts and I'd say yes. Today I have the power to say no. This power, I believe, as many people do, and the people who wrote the book, comes from God. You know, I need to keep myself, you know, open, you know, spiritually, so that this power can come in. You know, for me, I sometimes think of it as a dynamo. I used to have a dynamo light on my bike. You know, the harder I pedal, you know, the brighter that light shines. You know, the more useful actions I put into my life, the more I try to, like, focus my efforts spiritually, you know, in benefiting others, the brighter the light that's shining inside of me. You know, yes, sometimes I can stop pedaling. The light is still shining as it does on that dynamo. But I will grind to a halt. The light will go out, you know, and I'll be left in darkness. And I can't afford to go there because I don't know what's going to happen. there's no reliability in my thinking when that happens. You know, I become deluded again. You know, I look back at my past with the benefit of hindsight, you know. The thing that scares me the most sometimes is delusion. Because with delusion, you can't see it. You believe it's true. I believe it's true. But it's not. You know, but I can't see that. Today, with the benefit of hindsight, I can see some things that are true. You know, and some things that were false, you know. And I don't want to become deluded again. And I want to enjoy this way of life, you know, as I have been. It's continued to improve, you know. There's sharp edges to life, yes, and there's ups and there's downs, you know. But since I've, you know, worked this program and continued to work this program, you know, it's been like that. It's been ups and downs, but the general trajectory is on the up, you know. And I'm just going to continue doing it, you know. So I love it, you know. I really do. I don't want to jeopardise it by being lazy, you know, and dishonest. I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yeah, my name's David and I'm an addict. Thanks for 3 great shares, guys, you know. And I just sat here and I'm with you all, you know, like Emily, with your sort of your manipulation and your sheer bloody mindedness, like, you know, going to do it my way. That was absolutely me. And Gary, you know, that feeling of fake and a fraud and not knowing who you was, that was totally me, sort of 3/4 of the way through the journey. And the fear you spoke about, Craig, you know, that was with me all the time. This is my home group, and I've been involved with this group since its concept. I was fortunate enough to hang on to Rick's coattails and a couple of other people who had a bit of experience, and you know, in fact, the early steering meeting minutes about setting the group up are on the wall. And I never signed up for that. Actually, that ain't what I signed up for. I turned up at a meeting 7 months clean, and I'd put on a few stone. You know, and I ain't really going to go into my using too much because all you guys have said it. I used to, I couldn't use anymore, and then stopped to, I couldn't stay stopped anymore, and then carried on using, and that went on for a couple of decades. You know, it was crazy. It's the 8th birthday of this meeting today. You know, and I celebrated my 9th clean birthday yesterday, as well as my 52nd birthday. So I guess that makes me 61. And it's important, you know, and Phil said it the other week, because although like, I'm not sort of claiming any great things, what I am saying is that you speak to my mum, you know, or you speak to the 2 children that I've had in recovery who've never seen me use, or you speak to my daughter who saw me use for 10 years, or her mum, and it really means a lot to them, you know, it really does, and it means a lot to me, it does mean a lot. And like you, Craig, really, I never dreamt when I was a young man of 16, you know, left school and the world was open to me that I would have ended up an addict. I didn't even know what an addict was. And it's funny, isn't it, you know, because I used addictively for 20-odd years and didn't know the true meaning of an addict until I turned up in the rooms. So after countless times of going to rehabs, I spent 3 years of my life in rehabs, you know, torn between having one-to-one psychotherapy and counselling and that kind of thing. I was in another one in a porter cabin in Norwich where we'd regularly get the cushions out and name them mum and dad and kick them up and down the corridor, swearing at them. Come on, Gestalt therapy. Yes. And then I spent another 14 months thinking I was going to become a vicar in a Christian rehab. These people was going to send me to Australia to start a Bible school up, can you believe it? What they didn't know was that halfway through it, I was already out the back down the train track under the arches having a sneaky spliff and all that kind of thing. And I mention that one really because God was in my life then. But me and God used to sit underneath the railway arch and get stoned together. You know. So I turn up in Weymouth in 2003. Yet again, having gone to my 4th treatment centre. And do you know what? I've got nothing against treatment centres. They've always been sort of my last port of call when I can't help myself because I become completely incapable, you know. And worse than that, what I do is I alienate the people around me that love and care for me to a point if they can't have me around. I was telling someone about my 30th birthday earlier, you know, and I'd always had this dream when I was a young teenager that my 30th birthday was going to be the pinnacle of achievement. You know, I used to be involved in music and that kind of thing, and I was going to be some kind of superstar on the telly, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And the truth of the matter was 30 turned up, and I had to walk 6 miles from this hovel of a bedsit I was in to get to my mum's because I couldn't afford the bus fare. And I turned up at her door, knocked on the door, she opened the door and she went, "Happy birthday, son." And I went, "Oh." She just cried my eyes out, you know. And she said to me, I feel so sorry for you, son, but I can't have you indoors because you keep stealing everything." You know, which was the truth. It was the truth. I was stealing off her and my dad, you know. She gave me 20 quid, and it's funny how quickly 20 quid can put a smile on your face, and away I went and did what we do, you know. I jumped forward to the Weymouth thing, coming here in 2003. I'd destroyed a marriage. I'd had a daughter in that marriage. I'd destroyed friendships. I'd lost people I loved and cared for to this disease, you know. And the mad thing was, after 21 years at it, I turned up in Weymouth in 2003, not knowing that I suffered from an illness. My mind was always such that so I could manage to stop. I wasn't one of these people who couldn't stop. I just couldn't stay stopped. I never understood why. I was always, I'd get a job, you know, I'd put on a few stone, get the car and the girlfriend, and then suddenly I just couldn't find any meaning or purpose to what I was doing. There was no satisfaction in it. It didn't mean anything to me, and I always wanted something more. And when I couldn't find that, I became discontented, you know, restless, irritable. And the thing that always cured that was taking drugs, although I didn't know that was what I suffered from. And I did the same again in 2003, turn up, you know, I'm 10 stone 7 in a pair of borrowed trainers. I've got one tooth in my head, and that's rented. And I go to this treatment centre, and these people love and care for me and look after me and feed me and do things for me that I can't do for myself at that stage. But the difference about the last one I went to was they made you go to meetings, and none of the other places had made me go to meetings. In fact, I didn't want to know about you lot. I thought you was all a bunch of loonies. And you know, my old sponsor used to say, "You're all in bloody church, all shaking tambourines." You know what I mean? I thought that was going on. But these people, part of being in this place, had to go to 3 meetings a week. I didn't believe in it. Do you know what? I didn't believe in it. I'd got clean. I'd done my detox. I was just going because what had happened was I'd gone from being 10 stone 7 with 1 rented tooth to sort of 12 stone 7 with 20 rented teeth, and my own trainers. And I'd left the treatment centre and got a flat. So suddenly, in my deluded head, I've become a man of substance, you know. And I used to walk around, swan around the meetings, pretending like I was doing the stuff, you know, put on a nice shirt and a clean pair of trousers, and walk in there and be full of bullshit, absolute bullshit. And it's funny because I look down on the people who was doing it, thinking, "You're so deluded. You know, these guys are bloody Nazis. What are you doing? Get a life." But I would go home to my flat. And funny, John knew me at this time. John at the back. John's been my friend for all this time. And I'd go back to my flat and I'd sit there and I'd cry. I'd sit there and cry, and I didn't know why I would cry. I just had this horrible, bloody feeling of impending doom. And I was 7 months clean, and you know, it's summertime, I'm down on the Weymouth, you know, often share it. I used to walk down Weymouth Beach thinking I was God's gift in little yellow budgie smugglers. I never attracted many, I tell you. And the ones I did attract was wrong. But it was funny. I'd been to a meeting called the Purple Rooms in Weymouth, another fellowship, and I'd met Tony's brother. Tony's brother was in recovery, and the first time I met him, which was around sort of September time in 2003. Having got to know him better, I know that this guy carried the message that we carry here, the message of depth and weight, and talks about the threefold illness, and is really clear. I didn't hear none of that. What I saw was his two-tone suede shoes that he'd bought in Bournemouth a couple of weeks before. And so I went to him and spoke to him about his shoes, and nothing else. And I went away again for 3 months, still going to meetings. And then a couple of things happened. I've lost some close friends to this illness, you know. My mum was selling her house at Christmas time, just before 2004. And a friend of mine who had a 4-year-old daughter and his wife, you know, you spoke about the way crack punishes you, you know, just pushes you into the floor. Well, he walked off the train platform at 12 o'clock at night on the British Rail line. And they never found him for 24 hours. And by then he was in bits because I don't know how many other trains had gone over. Simon. And I used to go and talk to him and sort of ID'd with him, you know, knew where he felt and how he felt. I went back to his funeral, I helped my mum sell her house, and I came back and I got up this morning and I was in this beautiful flat. I had this lovely flat. You know, I was doing the college courses. I got my car down there. I had a little sneaky cash in the hand job. I didn't have a sponsor. I weren't working a program or anything like that. I got up this morning and everything should have been wonderful, and it wasn't. It just wasn't. And I sat there and I felt like you felt, Gary. I'd suddenly been doing that thing of like being a chameleon to everybody, pretending I was someone I wasn't, pretending I knew something I didn't. I was so full of shit, it was ridiculous, you know. I really was. And I had this moment of clarity where I realised that I'd become a person that I couldn't stand. And I didn't even know what I'd become. I was just so lost. I was 43. Absolutely lost. And do you know what? I thought my life was over. I wished it was over. I really wished it was over. I didn't have the courage to kill myself. And I collapsed in a snotty, soggy heap on the floor in my kitchen for, I don't know how long it was, a couple of hours. And that's, you know, when, like you said about being broken, that point of where just you snapped. Something inside me snapped. And I knew something serious had to change, you know. It weren't enough to get up in the morning and have a shave and a bath and put on some smellies and a nice clean shirt and go out faking it and bullshit. I realised that I couldn't live like that anymore. And that night I went to the same bloody meeting, Purple Rooms again. And lo and behold, who's doing the share but Tony's brother? He's doing the main share. But this time, this bloke speaks about, and I'm hearing now, I'm listening to this, and he speaks about this illness that he suffers from. In fact, it was funny because I went up to someone. When he shared, I so identified with it, I thought someone had gone up to him and told him about me, such is my arrogance. I really did. I went up to my mate Dave, he's not here anymore, but I went up to Dave and said, "Did you bloody talk to him?" He said, "No." I so identified with what he shared and the way it had gone for him. And do you know what? This man absolutely convinced me with his testimony because he spoke about freedom and peace and happiness and joy. And not only did he speak about that, when he said it, I sort of remembered him from other meetings, and you could see that. He was a man who'd obviously once been like me, but his whole deportment screamed that he'd found a recovery that was just fantastic. And all I'd been hearing up to that point was people whinging and whining, complaining about their girlfriends, you know, or like washing machines packing up, or there was this thing going around the meetings for a few months down in Weymouth. If you wore white Adidas trainers, it was like relapse material, you know. So that would be like, and that's what I'd hear. That was the stuff that I'd hear and I'd buy into. But this bloke blew me away with his testimony. I absolutely believed him, 100% believed him. And he spoke about the clear instructions that he'd received on it. He spoke about the threefold illness, you know. the mental obsession. He'd obsessed mentally when he weren't taking drugs, or he'd obsessed mentally when he was. The allergy, the physical craving, that phenomenon of craving that comes, unsatisfiable. You can't satisfy it. You just need more and more and more and more. And that insatiable appetite that you can't ever feed. And the spiritual malady, that horrible bloody great hole you have in your stomach, and that gnawing feeling of, oh no. And I was with him. And I went to him at the end of the meeting. And it was strange, because that morning I'd wanted to die. And then that night, I suddenly wanted to live, because he'd said something that I'd absolutely believed. I could see that he'd found a way, And so I asked him to sponsor me. And thank God he said yes. And I was so desperate that when he said, are you willing to go to any lengths? Do you know what? If that bloke had said to me, I'll hold your hand, let's jump off the cliff, I'd have done it. And they didn't muck about in them days, and I've still got sponsors that don't muck about, and I've always had sponsors that don't muck about, and not that I change sponsors lightly. I managed to make the first 2 relapse. I think I wore them down. And he said, what he did was he gave me a few simple instructions. There's a thing called Just for Today card. He said, when you get home tonight, write a gratitude list. Get on your knees and pray that you've met me, that you found recovery. And then in the morning, get up, review your gratitude list, read the big book. Read a page or a chapter. Read the Just for Today card. And then he spoke about phoning people and not complaining to them about how terrible I felt, which took a week or 2 to get used to. Get to 3 meetings a week, if I was a single man, and to find a home group. And I was fortunate enough that they was all just about to start doing the steering meetings for this group. So, and I went, and I was absolutely a sheep. I was absolutely a blind sheep. I'd lost all that defiant personalities, cocky Dagenham Dave crap that had kept me in hell. I became a little meat mellow sheep. Do you know what? There wasn't an Arrett Works meeting down here. The first Arrett Works meeting I went to, I travelled to Plymouth. And I did it gladly, and we did it lots and lots and lots, and there was a few of us that did it. Newcomers who was absolutely desperate and gagging because we knew what was available. And then after a couple of years of this meeting, do you know what? I went and started another meeting the same as this in Weymouth. I didn't want to leave here. It was my sponsor's suggestion. Rick came with me and a couple of other people. And we did that for 5 years and then came back here recently, There is so much more than just not using. And what I found in this meeting, and there is recovery in CA. We don't have a monopoly on recovery. But what we do have in this meeting is a unity that is indescribable. If you guys who come, one of the things that happens is I see people turn up who are absolutely desperate. Some people have been around for years and turn up absolutely desperate because they ain't been doing the do, or they've had misguided sponsorship or whatever. What seems to happen is they seem to take what comes here and then start making up their own minds about having their own brand of recovery, and they go, And what that can do is they can throw a meeting into disunity. The solidity of disunity, the people that have actually gone and just chose to go because they don't want to carry on doing it this way, I take my hat off to them, because they go and do that kind of recovery somewhere else. The thing that's made this meeting solid and unified is that everybody's recovered in the same way by doing the same stuff. And there's it's described in the book as a spiritual thing, an actual spiritual being, And it just surprises me sometimes that people turn up that desperate and then 3 months later they're not that desperate and they want to start changing things, And they're entitled to want to do their own kind of recovery, but just go and do it somewhere else. Don't come here and do it, because we all do it in the same way here, and that's what gives this meeting the strength that it's got. Like I say, I've not considered using in a long, long time. What I've found by continually doing this stuff, like Craig says, do things that I don't want to do sometimes, when I don't want, when it's going to be a pain in the arse and I've got other stuff to do. But I've managed just to stay in the fold, toe the line, because do you know what? this meeting ain't about me or you or anyone else. The meeting is bigger than everybody. No one is bigger than the meeting. And it's really important that it stays that way. I've seen people who've been around for years come and go, and they leave and they go unused. I found something absolutely indescribable at this meeting. And if you stay around long enough and just stay in the fold, you're all going to experience the same thing. Yeah. I just see it happen to countless people who come in absolutely destroyed, and a couple of years later have got a life that they couldn't begin to describe. And that's free for anybody. I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you.